I'm alongside Ramona Shelburne, Chiney Ogwumike. I'm Rachel Nichols, and as we mentioned before the break, Jackie McMullen profiled the evolving culture in Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie now there, including there's a story in there about Kyrie cutting off communication with team officials during the team's trip to China. It's sort of in a larger section talking about Kyrie's moods, how on all the teams he's played in, there's been times where he doesn't really talk a lot. Nets coach Kenny Atkinson denied that account. But KD, when asked how he handles Kyrie's moods, he said, quote, "I look at Kyrie as someone who's an artist. You have to leave him alone. You'll know that he'll bring to the table every night because he cares so much about the game. Now, it might not be how other people want him to care about it. He has his way of doing things. I respect who he is and what he does." So I thought this was really interesting. First of all, KD clearly, we've heard them say a few times over the past 6 months, like, he's my best friend, he's my best friend. And it's to the point where some people have been like, why did they keep saying it? That, to me, tells me about their friendship and how close they are, because that is a real quote, not just defending someone off the cuff, but saying, hey, I understand this guy, and this is why I still like him, and what he gives me, and the beauty that he gives me in his game and our friendship. I love that. I didn't think the communication in China thing was as big a deal. What struck me, Ramona, was a couple anecdotes there about how Kyrie didn't first want to come to some Santa Monica practice sessions that you had previously talked about, that he didn't want to remove his hat for a team photo. And he was just like, nope, I'm not doing it. Where do you think the Nets and KD's sort of approach to Kyrie's temperament have to be this season?
I thought Kevin's quote, I had the same reaction to Kevin's quote, which is like, wow, this guy really knows him. And, he understands his friend. He understands. I mean, I'm sure in their own communication, he's gone through that. Like, there's a part of the story that talks, it took a minute for, like, Kevin and DeAndre were close when they were living on this cruise ship in Brazil at the Olympics. But it, took a minute for Kyrie to become part of that friend group because, Kevin's explanation was like, he was, he just won a title. He was coming down off of something. Right? He had a long year.
He didn't talk to us very much, and I pushed back on him.
He understands him, right? And I think that it helps that Kevin and DeAndre are his friends because they're not going to be looking at him sideways going, what's wrong with this guy?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas in Boston, I think a lot of people did when he would go into one of those places.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm just thinking to myself, so I met Kyrie for the first time in the McDonald's All-American game. I'm going into my senior year, and we spent a week together in Columbus, Ohio. And so, bus in the house. So it was just a bonding experience with a whole bunch of young high school people. And Kyrie has always been an enigma. He sort of just danced to the beat of his own drum. And when I heard KD say these things, I wasn't surprised because KD has always been the type of guy to let people live. He let Russ live in OKC. When he joined the Warriors, he let Steph and Clay live. And now he sort of operates his best game when he does have another superstar that he understands and builds a friendship with. So for Kyrie, everyone that knows Kyrie since he was 15, 16, knows he's just a little bit different. But that's how artists are, and that's how savants are, honestly. And he's a savant with the ball.
And look, I think part of the issue is the people around him taking it personally. And before people in the NBA knew him so well, I think they did take it personally, right? We heard stories about his teammates in Cleveland. During an NBA Finals, he's really withdrawn from the team, and the reaction from the guys are, what's going on? Why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you talking to me? What is going on? Is the bond between us not working? It happened a bit in the Celtics situation where younger guys being like, well, why is he being mean to me? He is not being the leader. And that's not selfishness. It's just that when you're in a situation and someone is being not the way you expect, you want to know, what am I doing wrong? What's happening here? And I think by this stop, people are aware it's not the teammates, it's not the other people, it's not the coaching staff, it's Kyrie. And if you know that it's him, that it's not an issue of static between you, then there isn't this worry and energy and angst and sort of the things that tear apart team chemistry. So I think there is a let Kyrie live attitude going on in Brooklyn. I think that's great. I am curious if some of the very smaller specifics of he texted back to a training session, I'm not doing that. Or he, I won't take off his hat for a picture where he said, no, I'm not doing that. You can Photoshop it out if you want to. If things like that are going to clash with Kenny Atkinson, who admits in the story he is more of a college-style coach, who sort of runs that sort of live it or love it or leave it program. I don't know if that's ever going to come to a head and we see one of these like one-game team suspensions or something this year or not. But I think the general moodiness thing, I think everyone's over it. It's fine. It's Kyrie. Go let him live.
Like, that's okay. It's just that you live in a team ecosystem. And so when you are one of the leaders on the team and you act like that, it's fine if Kevin Durant gets it, if DeAndre Jordan gets it, even if your other teammates get it, but it also doesn't necessarily make the younger players want to follow the same system that Kenny Atkinson has built that franchise around.
Right.
Yep. And so I like the part of the story where she describes, they get there 2 hours before practice every day. You get a massage, you go to the weight room, you do some on-court work, etc. Like, that's all fine when you have young journeymen who don't have their own established routines. But when you have superstars who have their own trainers, who have their own systems, their own way of doing things that have made them successful in the league, now you're imposing that on them. There's an adjustment period that I think will be interesting to watch all year long.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be watching for like Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant is a 2-time finals MVP, a champion. Like, we don't worry about him. I think what we should be watching is the Karis LeVerts and the Spencer Dinwiddie's playing with Kyrie and seeing how he empowers them.
Right now, though, Kyrie as a net is a fantastically fun experiment. These games have been so good, and he's been so fun. I just want to see this happen. I don't care that much who he is or isn't talking to off the court at the moment when he's dropping 40 or 50 points. Well, we'll see how it develops.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports analysis and highlights, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.